is being live streamed and recorded. We will begin with item 1.1, call to order and flag salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. Moving on to item 1.2, approval and adoption of the agenda. Do I hear a motion?
I move we approve and adopt the agenda.
I'll second.
Thank you, Marilyn. Second by Don. Moving on to item 1.3, approval and adoption of the minutes from 12/8 of 2025, which were printed and handed out. Has everyone had a chance to review the supplied minutes?
Yes, I move we adopt or approve 1.3.
Thank you, Marilyn.
Second.
Thank you very much. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, moving on to item 1.4, public participation. Okay. Moving on to item 2, correspondence, and I believe we have none. Moving on to item 3, consent agenda, we have none. Item 4, discussion and action items. Item 4.1 is take action to approve the school accountability report, the SAR, the SARC.
Yes, and this is something that Chris Francis, our principal, is here to talk to us about. If you have questions, Dr. Nicole Odell is at jury duty. We were hoping that she'd get out of it. That did not happen. So, however you would like to go over this, if you've had a chance to look at them, Chris, is there anything from them in particular that you want to highlight or describe?
Well, just that it's old data.
Can you go to the microphone so that?
I guess I can.
Yeah.
Alright.
The data and that there's a template might be helpful for them to hear about.
Do I have to press
Would you
it?
like me to?
No, it's
Would you like me to pull up any of these documents while you speak?
I just roll with it. So the school accountability report card is a document that's written to Ed Code, and there's a template for it. And it used to have a lot more relevance pre LCFF and the revamping of the school plan for student achievement, but the SARC delivers a bunch of demographic data, information about how many staff we have, what the credentialing is, what our enrollment was like for last year, different areas that we provide professional development for, and we have 3 separate SARCs for each one of our schools. So we have 3 of them. Most of the data is self-populated and just goes over some of that basic information. A deeper dive for a lot of the information really does come from our LCAP.
Right.
Okay.
And there will be an LCAP review next month.
I was looking at West Hills. Looks like page 2. Ukiah zip code is incorrect.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I think it has 95490, which is that Willits?
Willits, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
And then I had a question. I was looking at, let's see, so like on page 4
Of the same one?
of the same
Okay.
document, where it talks about school number, school percent, district number, district percent. So all of those. Can you kind of explain those a little bit?
Sure. Which part of it do you want to explain?
Like, I've never seen this before and what that means. What does it represent?
Okay, all right. So, so the first one that's pulled up right there, when it goes over the full-time teachers, those goes through the assignments and whether or not the teachers that are teaching there are fully and appropriately credentialed to be there. So we're 100% for the school because we have one teacher that is fully accredited to be there. And then district number is 1.8. We have an RST teacher that's partially there. They're also partially assigned to our community school, and that's a resource specialist, a special ed teacher, who's an intern. So that person's finishing up their credential right now. And then if you go down a little bit further, there's, let's see, teacher preparation placement. It's about the same data. We have 2. Well, this is for last year's data. So we had we had 2 interns last year. district-wide. District meaning the LEA. So that would include all of our schools. So we had an intern over at the community school last year, 2 interns, one in the general ed classroom and one in the special ed position, which is shared between West Hills and here. So that's the district data for us. And then we're 100% staffed and appropriately credentialed for there.
Can you explain the district number and district percent?
Sure. District number would be the number of teachers, and then it's credentialed teachers assigned out of field. There's 2.1 for the district because of, like I had talked about, with the teachers that are interns. Those are the ones that are out of compliance because they're interns, out of field. I mean, sorry. So that's them outside that because they're working on their credential. And then the percent, that would be the percent of teachers that are out, that are misaligned or whatever. That's
And you can see that we have a total of 13 teachers, which is not a lot, so it doesn't, so the percentage.
well, they're not all mine either.
Right, correct.
So when it talks about the district, it's talking about.
It's talking about
All of MCOE,
all of
All of
MCOE
MCOE,
certificated
okay.
teachers.
Okay, thank you.
which is kind of misleading because there's teachers that work out of the special ed department.
Right.
Right.
So,
Or early learning,
And then
early
Early
education.
start. Yep.
Okay, and then the state number, how do we, what is,
that just gives the number of positions that's populated by the state.
okay.
I don't really have, that's, you know,
They pre-populate
They,
this for us.
Yeah.
they do, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
I was, okay. Thank you.
So that 100% means that all the teachers are correctly aligned, or?
in West Hills, yeah, the teacher is 100%.
Okay.
Yep, she's fully credentialed, and with alternative education credentialing, because you teach multiple classes, multiple grade levels, multiple subjects, that if you have a valid California teaching credential, you in an alternative education setting, you can teach all the subjects. It's not like they have to have a single subject for every, for English, math, social studies, art, PE.
On page 14,
The same one?
same document.
Okay. Veronica, could you put 14? That's okay.
14.
Engagement, below dropout rate, where it says 2024-25 graduation rate by student group.
Yeah,
It says this table displays the 2023-24
correct,
graduation rate.
correct.
But above that, it says 24-25. That's very confusing to me, so can you?
Sure. I gotta start out that my name is Chris and I work for the government. That's the first one. So with some of the graduation stuff, even though this is the 24-25 graduation rate, a lot of the statewide rules around graduation rate are generated through a cohort, right? Which is a three-year cohort that they report out on. The last year that they did that was 23-24. Now that, however, also presents a significant challenge for us in the alternative education, and especially juvenile court community schools, because what would benefit us much more, and the County Superintendent's Association is advocating for this from their legislative lobbyists, to have a one-year graduation cohort, because we don't really have kids for 3 years. And our graduation rate fluctuates dramatically depending on the year and the student and the situation. So it's not terribly relevant for us.
I had to read that 3 or 4 times, and I'm going, what am I missing? What I don't understand. Okay, thank you. I
Yeah.
appreciate that.
Yeah, I would just suspend rational thought for some of these sometimes.
Okay.
This is a compliance document, and as such, we rely on a company to provide the document that meets all the criteria, and they pre-populate much of the data from the state database to make sure that we're meeting the compliance issues. That being said, so if you go throughout the state, most people's SARCs rely on the same document tracking system, but it is not always really clear. But it does meet the requirements.
Yeah, okay.
Thank you, Chris. That was my question. Is this report, did it come from a template from the state? And if so, if we have a consultant company that works with us to produce that template, was it modified at any point, given our vision and the things that you're working on within the LEA?
Well, so I think part of that is that DTS does a document tracking system. They create a template, and then they also have on the back end of the programming, they have it all set up to where they have algorithms set up to where it automatically populates the data that we have to put in right here. Currently, this is kind of a stock form that doesn't really allow much flexibility for communicating your story. That's more what the LCAP is for, and that they are working through an alternative schools dashboard to better communicate that story. But that's something that's in process right now with the state of California. It was actually kind of a big topic last week at a conference I was at, and there are a couple of issues that were coming up. The graduation cohort, the college career indicator, how that affects us because of the way it's measured through pathways, the growth metric that they use for here. It really is designed for comprehensive schools that will have students for a prolonged period of time. We're really 6 months to a year, and hopefully we'll get you moved on there. But they are making good steps to move forward to capture the correct data for us. So for us, I think using some local metrics and things that we can communicate. The other challenge for us is like we're not LA or even Santa Clara, and our numbers are so low. It doesn't report out on the state websites because of confidentiality issues. So,
Is there a place in this report or any part where you get to fill in a narrative to tell that story, or that place does not exist? And
not really. It just tells what we do, and that and kind of our professional development plan and stuff like that. But it's really this form is I mean, a lot of people wonder why it's still around too.
Right.
Because it really hasn't been written out of code yet, but it has been supplanted by the LCAP and the updates for the SPSA, which are much better ways to communicate because they have better metrics, they include more local data and stuff like that.
is there a place in this report or the LCAP where we're tracking teacher demographics? A large part of the data that has come out in the past decade or even more now shows that if our teachers represent the demographics of our students, then there's more success in our student rates. Is there anywhere that I can look at that data and see where we're at with that?
Yeah, we can. And that's so that data is also reported in CalPaths. So when the information is uploaded into Aries, all that's information is taken into account. Whether or not it's reported directly in our on the LCAP, I don't know offhand. I know it's an HR thing that we take a look at and to be able to report out on. So.
Would our HR team have more information on that, Nicole?
On the demographics of our staff or
If
just
they-
of our teachers?
Of our teachers, if they represent the population of
I don't
students?
know, I can check.
Well,
Is it part of the civil rights report that we do?
I think so, that's what I was,
Yeah.
I'm like,
And that
there's
is-
different reports, so I'll
Yeah.
check and see. I feel like it's been in one of them, but I don't
Mm-hmm.
recall, and I also don't recall because there are so few if it's populated or not.
In your observation, Chris, what have you noticed? And you know your teachers and you know your students.
I do. So I think I agree that a lot of times it's really good to have school staff that represent the student body as much as possible, whether that has to do with racial identity, even gender identity, or socioeconomic life experience identity. Those things all help, and are things that we take a look at as we begin to hire. So. The hard part is that we actually get very few applicants for our certificated positions. That's why we have interns. And it would be nice to have more people apply. That being said, I think we've done a really good job in our classified hiring, where we've more than quadrupled the number of bilingual Spanish classified employees that we have employed in our programs. So that's been really great. I've been reaching out to some people in Humboldt County. There's a person there, Maggie Peters, who does a lot of work with Humboldt County Office of Ed, and also getting our teachers signed up, for instance, to do the Native American Studies Model Curriculum program that starts in January 20th, but also to find a pathway for some of those folks to come in and try and access even some teachers that are more native, native. And then the other challenge is our school districts, right? They hire lots of people. They have intern programs for like bilingual Spanish teachers, and so it's challenging. But we do a lot of work to try and attract as many people as we can, it plays an important part of how we move forward with things.
The information on data, teacher and staff demographic data is on DataQuest. I knew it was out there.
Thank you, Chris. Anyone else have any questions for Chris? Marilyn?
Thank you, Chris, for explaining all that. I know it's a lot of data to gather. I would like to make a motion to approve item 4.1.
Thank you, Marilyn.
I'll second.
Thank you, Don. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, motion passes. 4.1 is adopted. Moving on to item 4.2. Resolution 26.1.1, National Counseling Week.
Yes, nationally, we try to bring resolutions to you the month prior to the recognition. And February 2nd through the 8th is National School Counseling Week. And we definitely hire school counselors through Mendocino County Office of Education. And we also want to recognize those that are employed by our school districts. So we bring to you this resolution.
They are a blessing.
Mm-hmm.
Do I hear a motion to approve Resolution 26.1.1?
Move to approve.
Thank you, Priscilla.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Moving on to item 4.3, Resolution 26.1.2, the JPA Stay Well 12 Plan.
And we've made a mistake with this. This does not actually require the board's approval because it's approving something for the staff. We need a superintendent resolution. So it will look just like this. So for your information, here's what it will look like, but this does not actually require your approval.
Okay, great. Any questions? Okay, moving on to item 4.4, take action to approve board policy 5141.5 mental health.
So we normally like to bring policies to you for a first and second reading. This we're bringing to you for approval this month in the first reading. And the reason is because this came to us in early December, I believe it was. And the requirement, this is a new board policy, the requirement for this is that districts and LEAs have this adopted by January 23rd. So we wanted to bring this to you. In subsequent, on the agenda, we have some first readings. This policy does make reference to board policies, some of which we have, some we don't. So we will be looking at and potentially revising some. And we have further on the agenda some new board policies that this references, but we don't see a rush to approve those. We want to give you the ample time to do a first and second reading. But for this one, we are asking that you approve it. It describes things that are already happening. So as an agency, we're not concerned about anything here. It's putting into our policy what statute has already required us to do. And that makes sense to us. We have reviewed it, I've reviewed it, Chris has reviewed it, some other staff that will be in charge of making sure that these things happen have reviewed it, and we're all comfortable with it. But we're happy to take any questions you may have.
Can we do a public reading?
A public reading of it?
Yes, please.
Okay.
What, you want them to read it word by word?
You want me to read the entire policy?
Yes.
Well, lengthy.
Madam President, that's really up to your call. We could also, yes.
Well, we have had the policy posted with the agenda, and because of the length, do you have any questions in regards to or any concerns?
As for a public reading, because it's asked of us to approve on the first reading, and is a standard practice for the public, as for a public reading, and to be courteous of the public.
It has not been a standard practice that we read our board policies aloud. It has been standard practice that we post them, and so it has been posted with a 72-hour notice that is required.
All right.
I apologize, I'm not talking about our standard practice. I'm talking about a standard practice that's referenced when something that's out of practice, which is we have a second and third time to review it, or at least a second time to review it, to be courteous to the public to read it in that fashion. And it's up to you,
Do I
Board
hear
President.
a motion to approve the reading?
Do we need
Would
a
you like,
motion to?
you can make a motion to,
I'm only asking for it to be read, not to be approved for the public. Since
Okay.
it's out of practice to approve on the first.
We have had a practice of approving things when it was something like this with a time-bound thing. We bring it for a first reading. I understand Priscilla wanted to be transparent with the public. I think that we have met that criteria
right, by posting.
by
the-
posting it. And we this is not the first time. It is not our standard. We prefer to bring it for a first and second reading, but we have brought it in for just a first and final approval in the same meeting when we've had this time constraint sort of thing.
Okay. I feel confident that we have met the obligation to be transparent and post the policy. I don't see a need to go ahead and read the policy, and we have not had any public comment.
And the policy that we brought from CSBA.
Marilyn?
I'd like to make a motion to approve item 4.4.
Thank you, Marilyn. Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Okay, thank you, Dawn. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, any opposed? Okay, motion passes. 4.4 is adopted. Okay, moving on to item 5.1, MCOE School Student Report.
Our student has been out. It continues to be unavailable to come to the meeting, so we don't have a student report this month.
Okay, moving on to item 5.2, statewide data report.
Yes, so Dr. Odell prepared this report. Since she's at jury duty today, she's not here to present it. This is not all the data. This is some data. It's a very broad overview. We wanted to share with you just some data, some countywide data that pertains to some of the work that we're doing at MCOE. So if you could scroll down. So we have first just countywide enrollment. Let me open this. I can't see that up there very well. Our countywide enrollment has gone down a bit over the years. That is on par with the state trend of enrollment decreasing. And we have it broken down by private school, charter public, and non-charter public. This is only charters that are in our county. So if we have students within our county that are attending other charters, that's not reflected here. And so the enrollment is important to look at for lots of reasons. It helps us with our staffing and projections on how we will support and where we will support. As you look at this data, you may note that while the overall student enrollment has dropped about 52 students since 21-22, within our districts, it's dropped 87 students. So that drop has been in our districts. Our charter schools and our private schools are slightly up. So that is data that is important, and our districts certainly pay close attention to that as well. And then this next slide shows the enrollment in public schools over time. And it shows it's kind of showing just kind of the same data, but it takes out private schools. The next slide, so there are certain subgroups that that the state looks at they look at all sorts of subgroups. Some primary subgroups are socioeconomically disadvantaged, special education, English learners, foster students, and homeless students. And so on this slide, you can see that our socioeconomically disadvantaged student numbers in our county has gone up to over 70, it's over 75%. Well, it's not quite 75%. 67, oh, it is over
Yeah,
75%, yes.
75, yeah.
Special ed students on IEPs has gone up over the years. We have a slight drop in English learners. Our foster student enrollment has gone up. And then our homeless students. You can see that proportionally, the jump in homeless students is significant. And the next slide looks at that a little bit more. On this slide, you'll see the top numbers of our homeless students, and you can see for this, for the 24-25 year, we had 899 homeless students, or students classified as homeless in our county. I want to make sure it's understood, the definition of homeless for this is not necessarily unhoused. It could be unhoused, it could also be doubled up, it could be living in temporary housing, like a hotel with a voucher. So this encompasses all those, living situations are encompassed here. So in looking at our countywide enrollment, the bottom bars, the really long bars, are the total enrollment for our overall students in public schools in Mendocino County. But you can see, proportionally speaking, the number of students who are homeless has gone up a lot, which is alarming data.
It is.
Yeah.
And we have a foster homeless youth department, and we work with the districts on foster homeless issues. But I wanted to share that with you. Chronic absenteeism is the next slide. That is defined by students who miss 10% or more of a school day for any reason, excused, unexcused, or suspension. And so that's about 18 plus days a year. And so in looking at this slide, you can see that our countywide chronic absenteeism rates over time. Overall, from 21-22 to 24-25, we had a drop. Unfortunately, from 23-24 to 24-25, we had a slight increase in all of our schools. In the Mendocino County non-charters, you can see those numbers. Again, a drop from 21-22, but a slight increase. Less than 1%, but still a slight increase from 23-24. And then you can see the statewide public schools and statewide charter schools only.
Can I ask a question about that?
Yeah,
So 21, 22, that was, schools were still closed because of COVID, is that?
no, they were open at
They
that
were
time.
open,
I think there remains restrictions. Yeah, there remained restrictions.
Okay.
Were some on hybrid at that
I was gonna
time?
say something.
I think somewhere.
Some were still on hybrid,
Okay,
yeah.
yeah, I'm just trying to figure out for some reason why those numbers are so much higher than,
Right.
Yeah, COVID impacted chronic absenteeism like nothing ever seen in our state. It's remarkable, and the recovery from that has been really difficult. I think there's been a paradigm shift when it comes to school attendance for families and for schools. So we're just still trying to overcome that.
yeah, I guess that would be like the first year back after COVID, so folks were still used to not showing up to
There
school.
were, yeah, and there were definitely still health concerns, but there's like a whole mental health
Yeah,
component to it as well, yes, thank you. So that is just a broad stroke of data. Next month this month you had a little bit of data on our schools, and next month we'll get a little bit more data on our schools in the LCAP update, but wanted to just share with you some broad strokes of some of our countywide data.
Okay, any further questions?
I have another question.
Yeah.
The socioeconomically disadvantaged, what criteria is used to determine that?
I don't have all that. Do you know that, Heather? Jennifer?
No, Jennifer's kind of,
Yes,
Yeah.
please, would you mind going up there so that anyone listening can hear, anyone watching can hear?
I was
you?
just curious because it's so much higher than I would have thought, that
Yeah,
75% of students are,
Well, it's based on the free and reduced price lunch, right? So it's income level with the parents. I don't know the exact percentage, but that's what it's based on, is the free and reduced price lunch.
Oh, okay.
Forms the kids,
I
families
would
fill
think
out.
it's the federal guidelines for poverty. That's what I would think it would be.
Yeah,
it's
low
not,
income.
it's not necessarily. We can get you more information on that. Chris, do you know more about that?
About the guidelines,
Yeah,
do we stand up
yes,
there?
please.
All right, So there are the federal guidelines, because all of our school districts do apply for and receive federal funds for their food service programs. There are also some districts in our county that are 100% free and reduced because of every 3 years, I think it is, they go through and they get a benefit form completed, and if they meet a certain threshold, I think it's like 80 something
Right.
percent, then they can qualify as a district-wide free and reduced. Now, for the socioeconomic disadvantage number, there's a form that there's different tiers of income, and different schools or different districts in our county tabulate that a little bit different. Like there's a benefit form, but there are the tiers that the family fills out, and they are pretty close to what the poverty line is. So we actually have, just to give it some perspective, we have employees that work for us just about full-time that also qualify as being socioeconomically disadvantaged, because it does play into affect the cost of living in the geographic area. So our numbers tend to be a little bit higher. But to give you an example too is that there are several of our schools that are over 95% socioeconomically disadvantaged, right? I was principal at a school for years that was 94, 95%, and there are actually 2 schools that qualified for a literacy coach reading support grant because there were so many over so many years for socioeconomically disadvantaged. So when you see the 75, I think there's also concentrated areas where it's a little bit higher in other ones, but it really is, there's been a push to really try and make sure we capture enough families so that they can get that support. So with that socioeconomically disadvantaged number, school districts are a lot more focused on making sure that they get the accurate data and the benefit forms turned in, because each one of those students counts towards increased funding in their supplemental concentration funds with the LCAP and various other opportunities for other programs. So people have been a lot more focused on it, and it's not that hard of a threshold to meet.
Okay.
It's important to recognize that success in school for students correlates with income level of the family.
Yeah, and it's one of the biggest indicators.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, any further questions, comments?
Yes, I have one question. Are we engaged in securing state or federal grants or resources to support homeless students and families beyond funding from CCJJ?
Oh, yes, yeah. That is a correct statement, right, Heather?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, anything that we can find that comes available and obviously that we can, acquire, we do go after. Primarily because we do put so many supports into those programs too, so we really need those grant funds and other funding sources to help support it.
Are there any new resources that we've been looking into?
I can't remember the name. We just had like some of the one-time, sometimes there will be some that are like one-time funded. We always try to go after those. I know Blythe, who is running that program, she attends statewide meetings and some other groups beyond the work specifically with like the County of Mendocino. And so whenever there are things available, she's all over it. And I know that there's like some that we don't necessarily qualify for as a LEA, like a school. But we do look at those for partnership purposes. Yeah.
Okay, moving on to item 5.3, the LCSSP 2024-25 Annual Progress Report.
And we have Director Jen McCauley here to talk on that. Thank you for being here.
Yeah, thank you.
This is just an informational report that we present. When you hear LCSSP, it's a Learning Communities, for School Success Program. It's an attendance grant basically that we were approved for. And we are local participants. We have about 30 school sites, charters in some of the districts. And it is the goal for this grant for us, based on what they want, is bringing back the joy of teaching and learning. So we have a senior naturalist that we've hired, who is working with classrooms to get kids outside more. In fact, this weekend, I don't know if there's some pictures towards the end, and I sent you guys the flyer. So we have a naturalist that goes and works in classrooms and helps teachers and students get outside and learn. and also go on field trips. The most interesting one, I would say, is they went to Donner Pass and stayed in the snow. Students and they did hikes and they learned lots of different things and came back. They do art activities, they do gardening, it's really student driven, what the students are interested in and tied to all the state standards for science. And just helping teachers and students get outside, also connect with community partners. We have a lot of things going on at state parks, the Hopland Research Center. One person that was presenting this weekend, she teaches people how to create dye from sea urchins, which I think is super interesting. I would love to go take her class, but she's over on the coast. So just connecting schools and teachers, and then students to ideally improve the learning, right? And the classroom culture so that kids want to come to school. That's the ultimate goal.
This was a really fun report to read.
Yeah, it is. It is so out of the box
It
and
is.
unusual. We just got approved for this grant, and only 21% of the people who applied for it actually got the grant we did, which is highly unusual. And the CDE person that we work with visits Fort Bragg every year. They have a friend who has a house, and she wants to come by, right? And just see some of the things that we have going on. She's there. Everyone's interested in what we're doing because it's unusual and out of the box.
It's such a great experience for the kids and such a big impact on so many that don't get.
And students who may not normally, they're often absent, right? That's what's ultimately the goal, is to improve absenteeism, but also who may not necessarily shine in the classroom doing math problems, but they're all about getting outside and looking at the water or counting the fish or whatever. So there's lots of different opportunities and just showing what's here and available.
Okay, Marilyn.
I just wanted to say, I think it's wonderful that we have this grant, and hopefully we'll be able to continue to keep these grants going. It's so important to get out and do that. I remember way back when I was in college forever with a couple of courses I took at Mendocino College. We went whale watching, and that was funded through, it might have been in a grant like this. I was looking at the huge amount, the 261,000, thinking travel, that's so much money for travel, but that's what they do. They go places and we went whale watching, we went, I think it was with the Mesa program maybe. We went and stayed, and I think I want to say Clover Stornetta. It was some property, coastal property where we did the exploration of all the sea urchins, all the little creatures, and we got to stay. And it's just wonderful that we still have these programs.
Yeah, it's great.
It wasn't
You know,
really a question.
At Mendocino High School, we had what we called Alternative Education Week. And for many years, I took students to Yosemite Institute, where we did all kinds of outdoor hiking and looked at the environment over there. And, I saw it just transform students and came right back into the classroom in terms of adjustment and behavior. And some of my richest experiences as a teacher was right over there in Yosemite.
Right.
There's nothing quite like it. And I also used to take my math classes out to do a lot of outdoor math too.
Well, that's the beauty of this, is that if you're a person who's okay, I'm not taking my kids to Donner Summit. That would be a hard no for me, right? But I can take my kids outside,
Yeah.
right? Or we can go to the coast, go to the ocean and look at you, and then tie that to reading and math and all those
Yeah.
things. Absolutely. So it's a nice broad spectrum, I would say, of access.
One of the best educational systems in the world is in Finland, and they really emphasize getting kids outdoors to learn things.
Yeah. Well, especially post-COVID. So
That was
Thank
our
you so much.
original education system here.
Yeah.
I do have a question. Page 9, section 6.
Which-
Oh, sorry, second document. The LCSSP participating schools, section 6. It says we have 18 schools that are supported by this. But down below where it lists the schools, I think I'm only Seeing 17, are we missing a school?
So this is a report from, this is the end of the report from cohort 6. And so it could be with the new cohort that we just got, cohort 9, which added Fort Bragg. And also depending on what the report's talking about, it could be a school site or a district.
Oh,
So it
okay.
could be that. It should match up. Ideally it would match up, but it could be that too.
Okay, gotcha.
So-
Thank you for the clarification. I appreciate that.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Okay, any other questions or comments? Seeing none, we'll move on to item 5.4. Excuse me, Brownfield, the Brownfield grant application.
Yeah, so I've talked about this a little bit in the board updates, but we wanted to create a separate agenda item just for information discussion with you. And also just to provide the public with an opportunity to make a public comment if there was interest. So we are applying for the EPA Brownfields Multi-Purpose Grant for the fiscal year 2026 in an amount up to $1 million. That's the maximum allowed. And what this will do specifically for our site is assessments to see if there's any contaminant, like things like asbestos, maybe lead paint or something, lead in the water, or anything like that. Primarily due to having suspected asbestos and lead paint over on the facility that the CCC was leasing. And those buildings are in need of a little bit of a renovation, which we don't want to we can't just dig into it. The benefit of this grant closes on January 28th, and the benefit of this is if we do apply for that full amount and are awarded that full amount, we are also able to help with assessments at any of the school sites that we're supporting, with their permission, of course. And so we have had some of the school districts say, hey, yeah, we'd be interested in being able to utilize the funds that MCOE receives to also do assessments there. And if there is anything that comes up, then they would be able to apply for the next round to do the mitigation. So for us, it would be both assessment and mitigation. For the school districts who might be able to participate, it will just be for the assessment. But then there would be future opportunity for also the mitigation.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Any questions?
So if we apply, if you're applying for the assessment and mitigation and they don't find anything to mitigate, what, I mean, that means you have to give money back or?
No, you wouldn't have to give any money back. We're pretty sure, so there's,
Okay.
I don't think that will be the case for us, but
All right.
if that were the case, it would potentially cost us less, which would mean that there was more money available to support the districts.
Got it.
Any other questions? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to item 5.5, where we discuss the March study session meeting.
Yes, so in March, we have our annual study session where we come together and look at goals that the board has had, make revisions but that's what we have done. We've also done data reports that's I think 2 or 3 years ago where we did gave a broader view of data and LCAPs. And then last year, everybody here except for David was part of the board at that point where we looked at kind of some leadership styles, and we looked at the goals the board had set in the past and made some revisions to it after quite a lot of conversation. So as we plan for that meeting, as staff plans for that, and as the board president and I come together, I want to make sure that that the board has ample time to think about that, and that we prepare a board agenda that meets your needs. So the annual review of goals is definitely something we can do. We had somebody from CSBA come and do the Good Beginnings training, which we could do. I don't know if we could get a trainer that day. We could. That's another thing that we had talked about doing, a follow-up with that. That could either be then or another time. But wanted to see it's a good time for the data. Excuse me. It's a good time for the board to have time where we sit down. It's still a meeting open to the public. It's not on YouTube, but it's a good time if we want to really study something or review something more in depth. It's a really good time to do that. So I wanted to see what considerations the board has as we prepare for that meeting.
Any comments? Marilyn?
I like the idea of having the Good Beginnings, maybe an abbreviated, because they're usually, what, 2 to 4 hours?
6 hours, I think,
Yeah,
usually,
I mean,
yeah.
well, an abbreviated version of that, because we do have new members. Yeah, but the little team building that we did was fun as well. I think we learned a little bit about ourselves. I don't think Priscilla was here. I think Larry was here, right?
No, oh, I think you're right, you weren't with us.
Yeah, Larry was
last
with
night.
us then.
Yeah, I don't think she was.
So we got to learn everybody's critical thinking, you know,
Yeah.
that one activity we did outside
Yeah.
was nice. I love that. What was the name of the facility we went to?
Oh, Know Your Harbor Inn.
Yeah, that was beautiful. I hadn't been there since it'd been renovated.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is a great spot.
This year we will be having our meeting at the, is it Chamber of Commerce? Chamber of Commerce in Fort Bragg has a new space that they rent out, so it's good for presentations for not very large groups like us. And then we'll have lunch around the corner at one of the restaurants, so we'll be right in downtown Fort Bragg this year.
Something new.
I've sort of wondered about the status of ROP. I know one of the great things we had at Mendocino High School is somehow they just really developed the ROP programs really well. I used to go down and hang out in the electronics lab myself, and a lot of our students took what they learned there and went on and did things with it. And I remember one of the things I observed is I had, you know, once in a while you get a kid who's just really brilliant. They found challenges down there in that electronics lab, you know, and so I'm just wondering, what's the status of ROP at this stage?
Within the districts or with what Mendocino County Office of Ed is offering?
Well, both maybe.
Okay. Because even if we don't do that then, that certainly we can come back and do a report. There's lots to talk about. There's so
Right.
much CTE stuff going on out there.
At the time we had our last study session, I was a new board member. So for me, I felt like it was a really great opportunity to get to know people. Because that's, you know, how you kind of start to establish trust and building those relationships where you feel a little more confident and comfortable with discussion. And I think discussion is really important. So I'm really looking forward to it.
The goal setting discussion last year, I felt like was really, it was good discussion, very robust, and you were new, and so all of you have been on the board. I mean, David's the newest, but you have a better understanding of what the agency does and what the role of the board is in that. So we could, in preparation of the goal setting, we can send the goals out to you now so you can review those and kind of think about what you might want to see differently.
That would be great. And that's a great point that you brought up about, you know, reviewing those goals, because I was so new to what the county did. You know, it was exciting and new, but to be reminded of what our responsibilities were and where we wanted to go as a team was just really wonderful.
Yeah.
David, I hate to put you on the spot, but do you feel like something like that would be really helpful, or?
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
I think it would, just the team building aspect,
Right.
you know, would
Yeah.
be something that I think would be very useful. I know we got them, know some of you a little bit when we went to the conference in December.
Yes.
You know, that was nice, but yeah, I think, you know, the goal setting and team building would be very, very helpful.
Very helpful.
Yeah.
Great.
Anyone else?
First thing you learn as a teacher is how to write objectives. And it's important. You go in every day and you have something in mind you want to teach. And so having specific goals is just really valuable. That's what I think.
I agree. Kind of keeps us on track, right?
Yeah.
Great, then we will get working on that, and I'll send you the goals from last year prior to our next meeting so that you can review those further.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Along with that, we have a self-evaluation tool that I'm not sure when it was developed, but we've kind of sent that out every year. We can send that out again, and also if the board wants to do self-evaluation in some other capacity. Perhaps we can discuss that in the goal setting, because we want to send something out after that.
Sounds great. Okay. If there's no other discussion, we'll move on to item 5.6.
Yes,
Board Bylaw 9320, meetings and notices.
the board does not need to do anything with this, but the board certainly can if you would like. So October, November, and December, in view of with consideration of the board setting the calendar, I attached Board Bylaw 9320. And it was not the correct board bylaw. It was the correct board bylaw, it was not the most updated version. And so for transparency's sake, since that has come to the board multiple times, and the public who might be reading board agendas, I wanted to bring to you that bylaw again, and the old one and the new one, and and I apologize for the mistake. It doesn't change any of the decisions that the board has made, but I did feel like we should bring it to you for your consideration. Most notably, in the old bylaw, there was mention of days and times that board meetings would take place. And in the and that's part of what the board discussed. In the revised bylaw, which was revised last March, the dates and times were not in that revised bylaw. So again, it doesn't change anything that the board has done, but I wanted to bring it to you for your review.
Did anyone have any questions?
Yeah, so we had talked about, I think at the last board meeting, potentially changing it so that it didn't have the dates and times,
Right.
and then come to be that it already
It
had.
already doesn't
Yeah.
have it. So my apologies for
Yeah.
not bringing the most updated version.
Okay. Moving on to item 5.7, Williams sufficiency, adequacies of school facilities and teacher vacancies or misassignments.
So this is just coming back to you, the report was brought to you in November, I believe, that we were missing some components of the fit inspections, because the data just wasn't collected by then, or wasn't compiled. And then the teacher vacancy information was also one of those things we were waiting for. They didn't bring it out until after the November meeting. So these two documents just share the final report on the 32, it was 18 last year, the 32 schools that we visited for Williams.
And the board doesn't need to take action on
They don't need
this.
to take action, it's just part of the
Information
compliance that we
updated,
give
yeah.
to you guys the report.
Great, thank you. Any questions? Okay, seeing none.
Just
sorry.
real quick on Leggett, so the second yes means that that issue was addressed, correct?
Correct.
Yeah, okay.
Okay. Any further questions, comments? Okay. Moving on to item 5.8, first read of board policy 5141.52, youth suicide prevention.
And so this is a bylaw, board policy that is mentioned in the board policy that was approved earlier in this meeting, and we want to update this and to reflect the most current policy. Veronica, is there anything else of note in
This
this?
is just the first.
Yeah, this is the first
Right.
read.
And we do, the reason why we didn't do the crossouts from our current is they're just so different that
Right.
it would not be possible.
We'd like to do a strike-through version so you can see exactly what the changes are, but this is so markedly different that didn't make sense.
I think the current one was approved in 2017.
Okay, any questions?
Could someone summarize what key or most significantly was changed?
So I think that there is something in here regarding, let me look at this, I believe it's regarding the staff training and notification. Before, the policy was more localized. I should say, there were fewer compliance issues. Let me make sure I'm reading the right one, yes, okay. So this one the revised one will include, let's see, I think that this is new, the measures and strategies for suicide prevention, and then it mentions staff development on suicide awareness and prevention offered by MCOE for teachers, interns, school counselors, and others who interact with students, including appropriate substitute teachers, expanded day. So again, the training part. There's also, I think, requirements of notification for crisis and suicide intervention.
The posters.
Yeah, the posters are now required, so that wasn't previously required. I think those are the main things that come to mind. I'm looking at this to see if anything else pops out.
And then I think I had noticed like it had mentioned different resources, and a lot of those resources, I think the information had sunset or was no longer available.
Yeah.
The resources specifically were not part of the new, or not part of the new policy.
Here's a new part of it as well. Student identification cards for students in grades 7 through 12 when issued by MCOE schools shall include a 988 suicide and crisis lifeline and national suicide prevention lifeline. That wasn't something that even existed at the time. That's new, right?
Yeah, 988, because it was updated, and then, yes. But we also have an ID card maker, and we have a template to have that information on the back of our IDs. So we're on that for that. So, good.
Thank you.
Yeah, I always thought that there should be some sort of a curriculum developed to help young people deal with stress in life,
Yes.
you know? And I don't know whether anything's been
Yeah,
done on
Chris,
that.
could you address that?
I can? I can
Yes.
go over there?
Yes,
Please,
please.
thank you.
All right. Okay. There is.
Good.
Yeah. So you know, the state did a lot of really good work on developing the social emotional learning standards. So it's a breakdown and a discussion about how students interact and their social emotional needs. They're broken down into a couple of different domain areas, and it goes from preschool all the way to early adulthood, and they follow the same strand all the way through, and it has learning targets and built into it, so we can focus more about kids' social emotional well-being, and also build that into our curriculum. A lot of our school districts do use second step. Some folks use zones of regulation. We actually, at our schools, we use zones of regulation, and we use some elements of second step. But for instance, our counselor does a social emotional learning lesson 2 times per week in each one of our schools and our programs that's focused on a particular social emotional strand or learning. Part of it is personal management, stuff like that, social responsibility, and they go through a whole process to figure that out. And we're also a part of school climate survey right now that's going out that talks a lot about students' mental health and how they're feeling. So and a lot of our districts are already implementing a lot of these. So we're getting a lot of information now about student mental health and well-being that we're able to do things that are actionable. And fortunately, a lot of our schools in our county and in our school too, they have particular supports that are in place to support that data. So if they find out that a student has a mental health concern, then there's a whole process that we follow in order to make sure that they get the appropriate response and support to help get them past that place. So there is actually, right now, I think it's a pretty rich selection and a really great time. And I think schools are doing a lot of great work on really addressing mental health and well-being as you go through it. So.
Thank you.
I have a question while you're there, Chris. Specifically, I've read a lot of work that's been done with meditation and breathing exercises with the kids. Do we know if we're implementing even a 60-second, a 2-minute meditations for the kids for regulation and breathing and?
For our schools?
Yeah, do we teach meditation?
Yeah, we're part of the Mindful Warrior Project.
Okay.
So, and we do mindfulness and meditation. We take mindful minutes. We talk about that and reset that, and getting the teachers used to doing that at different points during the day.
What ages do they start? Do you know?
Oh, you can start as early as you want.
I mean, it's helpful in kindergarten because that's when kids are mine and fighting over toys and whatnot. And
Yeah, but so like when I was at
instead of a
elementary-
timeout, you know.
Yep, no, absolutely, yeah. But when I was at an elementary school, we instituted a mindful minute every morning that we did together, and we would do different strategies. The teachers had different strategies to use, but also the mindfulness work isn't just for students. It's important for us to begin to teach adults and staff members to take a mindful moment when you start to feel overwhelmed or whatever else, and teaching kids how to take deep breaths, right? And because a lot of kids experience trauma or whatever at a physiological level, right? So teaching kids how to take deep breaths and how to reset and go 3 different times. And then let it go. Those are all strategies that people are really folding in to their instruction, but are good for them too. So like for our programs, I'm exploring right now having somebody come in and do mindfulness work with our staff, to get that balance.
Yeah.
So it's a great thing. People really find the value in it, and it's very helpful.
Wonderful.
And I happen to be a strong believer in it. So.
Yeah.
That's
All right.
That's a good thing.
Good. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kristen.
Any other questions? So remind me how this works. This is our first read. It will come back to us next month for approval.
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, if there's no other questions, we'll move on to item 6. Moving on to item 6, reports. 6.1 MCOE School Program and Student Enrollment Report.
There's the report. I'm happy to take any questions. I probably don't know
pretty
that I can answer them.
self-explanatory.
Yeah, it's pretty self-explanatory.
Any questions, comments? Okay, moving on to item 6.2, MCOE Human Resources Personnel Report.
That is a very sparse report. It's not our prime hiring season, but you can see that we have hired a couple people, and we had a mid-year retirement as well.
Any questions? Moving on to item 6.3, Williams Quarterly Complaint Report for
see
quarter 2, 25-26.
We have no quarter 2 Williams complaints. Or, I'm sorry, uniform complaints.
For quarter 2, okay. All right, moving on to item 6.4, Business and Administrative Services Report with Heather Rantala.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
I'll highlight a few things. In the internal fiscal world, we just wrapped up first interim, so we dive right back into second interim. And what that looks like for us is we meet with each individual department to kind of go over any budget changes and so that we can implement it in time for second interim. We also received our audit report, I think actually this morning. So that will come to you all next month, and I believe the auditor is going to come and present that. In the external fiscal world, we're knee-deep in budget reviews. We have, I think a majority of the budget reviews done. Letters need to go out by the 15th, so we're trying to wrap those up. Also, on a point of success for a couple of the members, 2 of our staff recently went through the Fiscal Crisis Management and Assistance Team, or what we refer to as FICMAT. And it's a CBO leadership program, so we're continuing to develop our own staff, and they've been doing this course for about 12 months. And then they're also developing in the external fiscal world. They're developing an AP workshop that's really focusing on accounts payable, and part of that reason is because there is across the state and probably nationally, but really kind of focusing on what's happening in our state, is there is an uptick in attempts of fraud through various means. So we're really trying to just, help them with understanding the checks and balances and things to look for and things like that. In maintenance and operations, the CNA program that they recently completed the remodel on is in need of a roof repair. That work is starting, I believe, today. It's definitely this week. So that's really exciting because there's patchwork, so it's not going to be leaking. We want to finish that project before we could, secure that. But that will start today. This building is also leaking, and we've been trying to get this scheduled, weather permitting, as well as the Birch building. So it was slated to start this week, and I don't know that we're going to be able to make it this week, but possibly, just depending on weather and also when we were to receive some of the sanctions for the solar project. We also submitted the the application for the PG&E microgrid incentive grant. And based on our needs and the very specific of where we're located and the cost for us, we applied for 9.12 million. And that's for the river campus as well as our 2 schools. And it's really just for resilience. In information technology, as you saw in the human resources report, we have Pat Howard retired, and Alexia Sky is filling that position. And we have one additional position filling Lexi's, and she started, I think just before one of the breaks. And then in risk management, we've been working with Mr. Francis over at the schools in technology as well as the maintenance and operations program. What we've realized is like the radios for the 2 schools, Mr. Francis has to kind of run back and forth between the 2 schools, and the radio systems that we have or didn't have at one of the schools doesn't talk. So we're working with the County of Mendocino to try to rent some rack space and looking for options so that we can have a repeater so that he can use one radio and to be able to work with those schools. So that's what's happening in our world.
Thank you. Any questions? Seeing none, we'll move on to item 6.5, Education Services Report.
So there's a written report there from Dr. Odell's and her staff, and if you have questions about it, I can attempt to answer them or take them back to her to get a response to you later, but her report is attached.
Any questions or comments? Seeing none, we'll move on to item 6.6, Superintendent Report.
Yes, so 2 weeks of a break, but other than that, it didn't seem like less was done in December between last board meeting and this one. We just crammed it into less time. We had our all-staff winter party December 9th. We have an all-staff meeting, and then we follow it immediately by a winter party, and we do that at the convention center. Families are invited. This year we did something a little different, and we invited staff or departments to create like carnival games. So kids had a great time, and we had winners and for creative carnival booth activities. We also had our medical program graduation on December 16th. It was, there were some last minute changes because it was supposed to take place at the college in the auditorium, and then the college lost power that day. So we ended up having it at Ukiah High School. Everybody seemed to get the message, and it was very well attended, outstanding graduation. We also had the grand opening for the Career Pathways Training Center, the building over in the area that the CCC used to lease from us. At a future date, we'd love to do a tour of it. It was, people were very impressed. It is a very impressive building. And we had representatives from our assembly member's office as well as our state senator. So it was nice for them to have sent representatives to that meeting. And I think I tried to do a head count at one point, and there were like 90 people there. So I don't know if that sounds right with what you guys all had, but they were looking at the buildings, or at the building, and also at the AI medical simulation dummies that are there. It's very cool.
It is very neat.
The staff really worked hard, and our maintenance staff do such good work. So it was very, very impressive. I think you probably saw an email. The Association of California County Boards of Education are doing a Knowledge and Action regional conferences. They're doing a Southern California, Central California, and Northern California. MCOE is hosting
the ACCBE.
ACCBE, yes. And we are hosting that May 16th and 17th. So we still have to register if we're going to attend. So if you would like to attend, I'm sure you can register later, but if you let Yolanda know, we'll get our registration in for our board on that day. It's a Saturday and Sunday. I think they were looking at different dates and thought that would be the most accessible dates to people. And the only other thing I want to do is So this is Board Member Appreciation Month. We were able to hit a board meeting, David and I, last week. We went to Willits. I'll be going to Round Valley tonight. So if you, I look forward to attending some of those board meetings. I know some of you are going to be able to attend with me. And you are also a school board, so we do have recognition.
A little care package.
A little, yes.
Care package.
So
good way of
I
looking
want
at
to
it.
give this to you and thank you for the work
So
that you
thoughtful.
do.
Thank you.
There, being a board member is, takes a lot more time than a lot of people recognize to really dive in and to understand what's going on in schools. It takes a lot of diligence, and I appreciate the work that you do. So happy Board Member Appreciation Month.
Thank you, Nicole.
And that concludes my report.
I had a question for you, Nicole.
Yeah.
Circling back to our conference in May, the
ACCB.
I was a little confused when I read the invitation or the, so is it, there was a Mixer Friday, or is that just for the other ones?
I'll get
It
clarification.
didn't really, the way
I was
they
also-
wrote it, it says Mixer Friday night. Does that mean here we're having one Friday night?
I think, I really don't know. I will get
Okay.
clarification. The
Okay.
planning is all on them. So
Okay.
I will get clarification and let you know.
Okay, we don't want a surprise.
Right,
There was a mixer that no one came to.
We have a little time. I think ours,
It's May,
they're,
right?
yeah, we're doing
Yeah.
May.
Yeah.
Okay, any other questions? Moving on to item 6.7, board member reports. Marilyn, would you like to start?
I would love to. I've just had the most relaxing meeting, sitting here. And wanted to thank you. I've had the opportunity to research a little bit on teachers and think a little bit about teachers in the workforce housing. And I wanted to circle back onto what Priscilla said. I didn't want to interrupt you because you had a good point going on with your questioning about whether we had teaching staff to represent. And what I found in research was that we're just under such a housing, I mean, not just teacher housing, but a teaching staff crisis right now. We're lucky to get warm bodies, you know. And if you look, let's see, what was this one I highlighted? No one really discussed this much. In September, the Trump administration began requiring American employers to pay a $100,000 sponsorship fee for the new H/1B visas on top of our already required visa application fees that amount to $9,500 to $18,800, depending on various factors for the visas. And that brought, this was in one of our emails under Cal Matters. I think it was it January or December? Anyway, to make a long story longer, I wanted to, not put anyone on the spot, but I wanted to follow up on the 17 teachers that we hired. Was it from Vietnam?
That Ukiah Unified.
Yeah,
Philippines.
Philippines.
Was it 17?
Thank you.
About that.
Yeah, I wrote it down. I remember 17 stuck in my mind because we were desperately needing teachers. I wanted to follow up and find out how many of them stayed. And apparently we didn't have to pay that at that point. They came, I think it was spring, we were discussing them. I'd have to go back to my notes. But so did we pay the $9,500
So
to
that
18?
if I don't know
per-
that they're not employed by us.
Okay, so
if
we
that
wouldn't really know. It was
happened,
Ukiah, okay.
but
I'm
not
just
aware of
curious
that.
about the visa costs, and so now that it's going to be $100,000 on top of the already, it's an imposing fee to be from $9,000 to $18,000 to bring in a teacher from another country. I'm wondering if we could do a hiring bonus. I mean, so I'm
hiring-
going back to incentivizing teachers to, you know, how Donna and I have always, what can we do to
So-
get teachers here? And since it costs so much money to bring in teachers from other areas, maybe we to
So
incentivize.
MCOE does have some higher, MCOE for our employees does have some bonuses for people going back to get a credential.
Okay.
Or do we currently have any hiring
But
bonuses?
no
there?
hiring bonus? Because that, I know that is,
Well,
a
so
really
that's something that
attractive-
has to be negotiated. I will say, Ukiah and Round Valley are both doing teacher residency programs, and MCOE has partnered with Humboldt County Office of Education for a residency program, teacher residency program for those seeking special ed credentials. So they're recruiting for that now. And then we're also pursuing another grant to do, MCOE is pursuing another grant for teacher residency. And what a teacher residency is they pay, most of these residency programs are paying between $25,000 and $35,000 to a teacher or to somebody who has a bachelor's degree and is and enters into the program, enters into a credential program. They're in the classroom with a credential teacher half the week. And so they may also be a teacher's aide or work in the after school program or not work in schools at all. They do have to have a bachelor's degree, and that they will get that, whatever the agreement is for that particular residency program. Again, it's about 25, 35, I think is about what most are paying. At the end of it, they come out with a credential, and the staying rate or their success rate is higher than even the traditional route of getting a credential. And the benefit of that when it comes to housing is those are people that already live here.
yeah.
And so we're very excited about the potential of that program. And so we have just a few weeks to get our grant application in. But even if we don't get that grant, we already have 3 residency programs within our county, but only one that's countywide, that's for special ed, and the one in Round Valley and Ukiah are obviously just for within their own district. So, but that's been a way that the state is kind of addressing this program, or I'm sorry, this issue of, I don't think it was intended to especially hit the housing issues, but it is the teacher shortage, which exists for a variety of reasons.
Yeah.
It's a successful way of addressing that, and those residency programs have been harder to implement in rural places that don't have a university in right nearby. But we're finding ways to make that happen, and so it's very exciting to see some of the work that's happening with that. So we're exciting and hope to bring some good news about that grant to you when we find out. Because when we apply, the turnaround time for them to notify us is pretty quick, because the idea is that residency would start for the following year, for next school year.
That's wonderful, because if you look at getting housing and
Yeah.
your first and last and cleaning deposit is immense. And to get a teacher fresh out of school to want to live here, they're going to have 5 to 10 grand just to get that apartment or whatever. The low income apartments, I think, start at 2,500 or whatever. I mean, it's crazy, all those new apartments that they're putting up in Ukiah. But to answer your question, because I've got that same article highlighted, that for the different reasons why, there was this great study done December 18th by the Center for American Progress. They polled 309 K through 12 teachers from 38 states and Washington, D.C. with fewer than 5 years of experience in February about educator retention. So the reason nearly 70% of respondents said that they have considered quitting or having already left their teaching job. When asked why, 77% said working conditions, including student behavior. 73% chose lack of support, such as professional development, and 69% said insufficient compensation. So, 69 to 70, that's all pretty. So I think a financial incentive is really number one. I know a lot of people stay in jobs that they're not thrilled with just because they're getting paid well.
Right.
Or a lot of people leave jobs because, they're not-
Teacher compensation is,
But
if teachers were paid better, they could better afford the houses that are here,
Yeah, and-
it's
the
Yeah.
teacher shortage and the workforce housing is,
Yeah.
it's all meshed. And we're really lucky to have you, David.
Oh,
Because you're excited about working on that too.
Oh, yes.
And my question to you was, I didn't get to attend the Sacramento workshop. No, you went, right?
I did, yes.
And did you attend the workforce housing? classes?
I did attend one session that's not. I don't think it was specifically was that, but it did talk about something called dual use occupancy, in which some districts in Southern California were using excess properties that they owned to partner with developers, and the school district would, I believe, make money off the rents, split it with the developers, which I don't know if that's something that, you know, could be looked at here in the future. I don't know how much excess property our school districts have, but I did think that was an interesting, and I did ask the question. That was, I think, of all the classes I attended, that was the one that I asked the most questions, because, you know, I work for the planning department.
Yeah.
So, and I asked the question, well, you know, how much does this bring in a lot of money? And they said, oh yes, significant. But of course, this was in Southern California, so you know, the economics of that could be very different. But yeah, it's, you know, definitely, I think it's a big issue, you know. I mean, I think, you know, we want teachers, we have to make it an affordable, sustainable job for them in this county.
I had some experience with this. There was a young social science teacher who came into high school and really did a good job for us. He was there for 2 years when I heard he was leaving, and I went and asked him, you know, how come you're leaving? He said, well, I'll never be able to afford a home here.
Yeah.
That was specifically why he left. And then on the coast there's, you know, so many of our teachers are kids who went ahead of students. They had family property, and that's why they managed to live there. You know, I have researched this a little bit. Mendocino Unified has extra land. A lot of the districts have extra land, and if you take the cost of land out of the picture, it makes it a lot more affordable to build. The trouble with the workforce housing thing is they focus on building rentals.
Yeah.
And I don't think people paying rent buy into your community. And when you own a home in a community, that's when you really buy into the community, and that's what you want for teachers. And I don't know whether they've structured any workforce housing to where the teachers in the district could buy it. That's one of the big
Nothing that I've
questions.
seen.
Yeah.
And just real quick,
Yet. I'm done. We just segued.
no, I just wanted
It's
to
a
add
real good
that
topic.
at the annual education conference, one of the sessions I attended where it talked about, you know, funding, school funding, and they talked about a little bit about workforce housing and the cost of living. And one of the things that factors in is when a developer goes in and they start developing projects, some of the key factors are the cost of red tape and the time that it takes, and that all factors in. And then someone brought up the point that in California, oftentimes there's things that go on our ballot, and when they pass, it affects the landowner. And so a lot of those are rentals, so that then trickles down to the renter. So there's a lot of different factors, you know, that play into that. Marilyn, you have anything else to add before we move on?
No,
Okay.
that was my
Thank you so much.
research for the month, was
Love it,
the
thanks.
teaching.
David.
Well, since we were talking about housing, I'll just throw in on a personal level, I'm currently in escrow for a house in Willits.
Congratulations.
We entered escrow on I think December 16th, so I've been kind of stressing over that over the last month. You know, I wasn't able to attend as many of the events in December as I would liked, but I think we have a new babysitter situation, so. I was able to attend the Christmas program at Brookside School in Willits. My wife volunteered to be the pianist for that, so to take Henry to that just before winter break. And like Nicole said, we did go to Willits School Board last week for a School Board Appreciation week.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's all I got. Hopefully I'll have a house by the next time.
That's so exciting. That's awesome.
Good.
Hey, Dawn.
I'm a little concerned about things that are happening politically at the national level. I think they're talking about eliminating the Federal Department of Education.
They are.
I'm just sort of wondering, how is that going to trickle down to this level?
That is yet to be determined, and if funding is transferred to another department, that's one thing. If funding is taken away, which I don't think is what is being proposed. I don't think that the proposal is to take away funding. I don't see, everybody seems to think that they have a level of expertise when it comes to education because everybody went to school. And I don't think that education should be a subset of another department. That being said, if that becomes the case, I have other things that are more concerning to me than that. We don't have much direct interaction with the Department of Education. It's really with the California Department of Education, certainly. That's a very different deal. And in our state in particular, I think our infrastructure is more, will take that a little better than some other states, if that were to happen.
Somehow I thought some of the funding for special education came from the federal level.
Oh, it does. So if that funding goes away, yeah, that's about, it varies, but for most schools, about 10% of their funding comes from the federal government.
Yeah.
It's, in some cases, it's gonna be more, in some cases less, but about 10% overall, whether it's special ed or something else. So no school can see 10% of their budget go away. But I'm not seeing that as a proposal of the funding going away. The rhetoric is that it should go back, the decisions should go back to the state. And hypothetically, if that also means that the funding goes back to the state, California, I think, will fare that change just fine. I'm still not in favor of it personally, but I'm not, like I said, there are other things that are, I think, require immediate attention and energy, and that's not one currently.
Yeah.
Anything else? Priscilla?
Thank you. Before I begin, I want to encourage our board to maybe submit these topics for discussion. I feel in all fairness, the public should be given the opportunity to engage, and best practices are on that level with board reports. Board colleagues, and most importantly, students, families, and our educator in the room and beyond. Leadership is not measured by attendance, title, or tenure. It is measured by standards, stewardship, and the discipline to deploy leadership where it produces real impact. In a relatively short tenure, I am proud of what changed because I served. I did not come to preserve comfort. I came to raise expectations. Progress often feels disruptive to those invested in the status quo. That tension is not incidental, it is diagnostic. I did not come to this seat to maintain equilibrium. I came to move it. Meaningful movement challenges comfort and disrupts complacency. That is not a flaw of leadership. It is evidence of it. Serious leadership requires discernment. It is not about accumulation or symbolism. It is about deployment. Placing time, energy, and authority where they are most effective, and refusing to continue patterns of practices that fuel educational inequity. During my service, transparency, accountability, and vision of educational excellence have been elevated. Inherited assumptions were challenged. Practices that had gone unquestioned for years and generations were disrupted. That work matters, and I stand by it. After deliberate reflection, I have decided to resign from the County Board of Education effective immediately. This decision is not rooted in conflict, fatigue, or retreat. It is alignment. The scope of leadership required in this season of my life outpaces what this structure was built to support. I believe you cannot credibly lead a community without leading your own household. The family is the first institution of governance, and the outcomes we see in our children are the most honest measure of leadership, not intentions, explanations, visions, or rhetoric, but plain, pure results. Our children are setting a standard of youth leadership that excels local achievements and opportunities. This is not about simply sending children to college to play sports. It's about raising the standard of sports performance and human excellence. Achieving this requires deliberate parental leadership, discernment, and unwavering commitment to growth. My husband and I often remind each other, sometimes jokingly, but always serious, that we either raise all of our children effectively now, or we will spend our later years raising our grandchildren while blaming our children for outcomes shaped by our own leadership failures. The irony is instructive. My family is in a season of exponential growth. My children are excelling at a highly competitive level in athletics, traveling nationally. This did not happen by accident. It is the product of structure, consistency, sacrifice, and deliberate parental leadership. Excellence is never convenient, and it never coexists with half measures. I am proud of my children, and I am proud that my public service reflects the same unwillingness to lead with comfort. I also want the record to reflect now how this role was carried, I showed up consistently and fully, including through multiple periods of profound personal loss within my family. I did not lower my standards, reduce effort, or ask for accommodation. I prepared, I engaged, I contributed beyond the minimum because leadership does not pause for hardship, and neither did I. Effective leaders do not cling to seats, they move with purpose. They recognize when standards have been raised, when the status quo has been challenged, and when leadership must be redeployed for greater impact. Leadership is revealed by what we organize our lives around when no one is voting, watching, or applauding. Leadership that does not transfer into lived experience is not leadership, it is symbolism. I am energized by our family's leadership horizon, proud of the standards we continue setting, and committed to deploying our focus where we will have the greatest impact. This decision is not an ending, it is alignment. I leave this seat having raised the bar, knowing history does not measure leaders by how long they stayed, it measures what changed because they served. This concludes my board report.
Wow, thank you.
That was beautiful.
I'll make mine very short and sweet. Like Nicole, it was a crazy time. December went by in a flash. Let's see, on the 11th, I attended an ACCBE, which is the Association California County Board of Education, Court and Community Schools Data Report and Independent Evaluation of the Court and Community Schools. I thought that had a lot of valuable information. And by the way, ACCBE has a lot of their stuff recorded. So if you ever want to go back and take a look and a listen, I highly recommend it because the data was really interesting. On the 15th, they did charter renewals and appeals that I attended. I know a lot of it doesn't really apply to us, but it was still kind of nice to understand the process and how things work. Let's see, on the 17th, I attended the grand opening for the medical pathway. And I just have to say, I can't remember everyone's name at the moment, but there was so much thought and consideration that went into the layout, the supplies, and everyone that was in attendance. It was just a really wonderful event. So I did that, and I'm really glad that I did attend. Today at 11 o'clock, I think CSBA is doing a budget proposal breakdown, which should be interesting. And because I've registered that, I think we'll be able to go back and go ahead and watch that. So it'll be really interesting to see what is proposed and how they break that down. And then the last thing is I've registered to participate in a new president's workshop through ACCBE, which is January 22nd at 7 p.m. Did you get the invite for that as well? Because it's also extended to vice presidents.
I saw that.
Okay, good. So I plan to participate in that. And other than that, that concludes my report. And
I would just wanted to say to Priscilla, it's been a pleasure serving with you, and I just wanted to wish you the best in whatever you pursue after this.
I'm sorry to see you go.
Yeah.
wish you all the best.
That was beautifully written about leadership.
Yes. Congratulations. That concludes the board member reports. Excuse me, moving on to item 7, closed session, there is none. Moving on to item 8, closing items. Our next board meeting is February 9th, Monday. And 8.2 is adjournment. Do I hear a motion?
We adjourn.
Thank Thank you, Marilyn.
Second.
David. Okay. All in favor?
Yes.
Aye.